All right, so we are live at 9 o'clock Eastern, a little past, and I don't know about you, but the insanity that Marvel dropped last night was too much for me to handle.
Yeah, yeah. I did some research on it today, but not a lot. So I hope I have a lot to say.
See, and there were things that I knew and things that I was hoping for and expecting and whatnot. I just didn't expect them to drop that much in one night. I want to say there was 2 or 3 trailers, a few first looks, um, and then I mean announcement after announcement after announcement.
Yeah,
So I mean, personally, I want to start with Winter Soldier and Falcon because I'm a huge Falcon fan and I'm a huge Captain America fan. Not really so much of the comics, um, but definitely of what's to come with Falcon possibly being the next Captain America and just them talking about the history of the Shield in that trailer.
yeah, man. I don't know. For me, like, I never really got into those two characters specifically. Like, the Winter Soldier was real cool, but like, I don't know. I didn't have deep connections to them.
Yep.
And so I was kind of like iffy on this. And then they did that comic. I read the number one for the comic that they started maybe a few months like before the shutdown, right?
Yep.
And I didn't really get into it. I didn't like it either. But this trailer, the chemistry's there, and I thought it was good. Like, it didn't seem as childish as I kind of expected them to play it.
Yeah, for sure. I loved how much they hated each other.
Yeah,
It kind of it was this great bromance style chemistry, like you're saying, that they're not getting along, but at the same time, they know that they have to, and they know that Steve would have wanted them to.
hmm
I'm wondering what that chemistry is going to be as you go further into it.
yeah, yeah. Because thinking back on it, I wouldn't even say that it's not that I was a fan of those characters, but I never really saw them have much of a relationship on screen. I feel like there was a lot of insinuated competition by a lot of the fandom and stuff,
For
but I don't feel like we ever really saw them get along or like spend any real like alone time together. So I think it was hard for me to imagine the series. But now that I saw that trailer, I'm kind of interested. It was a fun trailer. I like the way they played it.
And it's very interesting to see how much they're playing into it right now because they've had a lot of name drops with it. So the book that I'm actually raffling off tonight um, was one that was name dropped a while back. Omega Red. They're talking about him being in this. He had a very brief cameo appearance in Deadpool 2, way off in the background as Deadpool was playing chess. And this book got up to almost $300 fair market value back in January, February. So it was definitely a hot book because of that. And with all of the announcements now, I'm wondering what it's going to get to. It's going to be very interesting to see the value of that comic rise as well as the value of the Falcon comics and the Bucky comics and all of those first appearances because now you have these characters in their very first pretty much solo movies. They've always been supporting characters.
hmm
To see them kind of be played out properly and just continue on this great streak of um
Like world building. I think that's what's going to get really interesting.
yeah, it's going to
Like,
be very interesting to see how they play it.
yeah, because once you have this many different like series, this is going to be like 10 episode drops.
Yep.
So we're going to be getting like these like mini series, probably like an arc of a comic trade.
Yeah,
Probably like basically like a trade arc that's going to be like each season. And that sounds fun, and that's going to have the opportunity to just like massively expand the universe and like for me, I hate to cross into other fandoms, but for a moment, I really liked the way that Rogue One kind of broke out and made it feel like the stories in Star Wars no longer just had to be Jedi and
Yeah,
special people. And I feel like that's what this Disney Plus thing has the potential to do for their Marvel stuff, is make it feel like now we can look at regular people in a superhero world, whereas before it felt like we were just always observing superheroes.
exactly. Just like with Mandalorian, it took an entire season just to see one lightsaber come out, and I mean, it was the dark saber. So you
Yeah.
had a bunch of people who were just really excited over that. What's up, Adrian? You guys look
Hey. Really clear. Okay.
definitely interesting comment, but I wouldn't expect anything less, buddy.
Right.
Um, but yeah, definitely, it's going to be very interesting because now we're getting into this era in Marvel Comics where it's not just going to be superheroes anymore. I mean, there's super stuff about Bucky, but Falcon pretty much has nothing going for him in the superhero market. He's basically just like Iron Man, very
Hmm.
tech driven, a very tech driven superhero. Um,
Well, actually, that kind of like one of the ones that really caught my eye was She-Hulk,
yes,
because they put an emphasis on it being a lot more about like her law work, and that means any superhero can stop in because they need law help. So to me, that really caught my attention, that we're going to get like some. It almost sounds like Disney Plus, like Marvel, is about to become like this, almost like a network of its own,
yeah,
and they would have like different genres of shows. It sounds like they're just going to plug and play genres with different characters, and build like this, basically a network of, like, if you like Marvel characters, here's your Law and Order Marvel, your Ally McBeal Marvel. Like they
and
can do a Big Bang Theory sitcom style one.
what's up, Shannon Hoagie? Good to see you. Um, it was great to see like all of that when they did the Netflix shows. It was awesome to see that business side of um, Iron Fist, and you had the law side of Daredevil and the PI side of
Hmm.
Jessica Jones. And I mean, Luke Cage was one of my favorites because it really dove into like the demographics of that neighborhood and the issues that they were facing.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, I got very like socio-political.
yes, and a lot of people don't like them. And I mean, I'm a fan of pretty much anything Marvel does,
Hmm.
and I have my nitpicks about certain things, but I also don't. It's a comic book movie. It's a comic book show. Who, at the end of the day, if it entertains me for the hour or 40 minutes that it's on, that's what I care about.
Yeah, yeah. I think Iron Fist, especially that first season, was the worst of those offerings on Netflix, and they were all phenomenal. And it makes me wonder if this isn't because of how they specifically mention you never know who could come into the universe now. Like what character could just be introduced because of regular everyday life. Kind of makes me
Definitely.
wonder if that's not where some of this what's his name, Charlie Cox, I
Yep.
think. I wonder if that's where that rumor is kind of stirring from. Is they'll both be in New York technically.
Yep. And the amazing thing about, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was Daredevil season 1, they had a name drop, and that name drop was Morales. And
Hmm.
there's no other Morales in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's no other Morales in any of the comic books except for Miles and his family.
Yeah.
And they were talking in a lawyer office, in a legal office. So it's like, what else could we be talking about right now? It's
Hmm.
you're name dropping Miles Morales years before we're going to see him on screen. And that's going to be absolutely mind blowing to eventually see Miles Morales take the big screen. We've already seen his uncle. And let's face it, he's coming. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
when, not a matter of if.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an excellent point. And then they also had the scene in it was Spider-Man, right?
Yep.
Homecoming. So
They've been name dropping a lot of people lately.
Yeah, there's been enough like hints about it that we know something tangible. I still don't think it's that close, but I think it's close, you know.
Yeah,
Where they're showing us now, they're showing 2021 and 22, so 2 years out. I think in that next round, that's when we're gonna start to really see some Miles stuff start to pop.
for sure. And the amazing part is not only are we going to start seeing more heroes on a deeper level and getting into like the new heroes. I mean, Miss Marvel's going to have her own show, and
Hmm.
she's maybe, I think she's 5 or 6 years old, maybe a little bit older than that. Um, Compared to all these other comics that have been around for 40, 50, 60 years,
Yeah.
even longer for some of them. And Miss Marvel is going to be part of Captain Marvel too. I mean,
Hmm.
they're gonna start tying everything in the same way they do in the comics, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Someone I know said, if you want to know where Marvel's going, look at the Marvel Team Up comic series.
Yeah.
That's what's going to start happening. Is these movies are going to be Marvel Team Up movies.
Yeah, yeah, because that's kind of points at one beef I have had with like Marvel and DC is they've gotten really bad at targeting young adults and
Mm-hmm.
like teenagers and stuff. And it feels like the MCU and Kevin Feige and the movie studios they understand how important that demographic is,
Yep.
and so that's definitely what they're looking at is what's their next generation of clientele going to be, and they're trying to get them now.
The prequel series of Star Wars was probably one of the ones that I watched growing up in the 90s, or well, late 90s, early 2000s. And everything's better when you're 10 years old. That prequel series is amazing no matter what. And I've always said, even watching them now, they're kind of kitschy and nitpicky and whatnot. And there's certain things where I'm like, wow, why did they do that? But
Yeah.
I mean, they're phenomenal. They spoke to a new generation, and that made every single person who grew up watching the prequels want to go watch the sequels.
Hmm.
And however you might feel about the sequels, I am not a fan, but
Oh no, yeah, I really appreciate what they did with episode 7, and after that, it was
yep. See, and I honestly wish that they would have taken parts of 7 and parts of 9, and that would have been 7, and
well,
then they would have
honestly, I
went
haven't
from
even
there.
seen 9, so 8 was enough for me.
I honestly did not think I was going to go see 9, but I needed to see how it ended, and I
Yeah,
needed to see if my brother-in-law and I were correct with Ray's lineage.
yeah,
'Cause they could have taken it any which way, but I just was not a fan of the way that they took it. It's like,
yeah. For me, episode 8 was like a slow motion dumpster fire. It felt like it was never
yep,
going to end. I could not stand it. It was so bad. And I really like
totally
Ryan
agree.
Johnson. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. I still respect the guy, but that was like that might have been like a cool Battlestar Galactica episode. That could have been a really cool one, you know.
See,
But his version of Star Wars was not Star Wars.
I just don't understand who thought it was a good idea to go into all of the political aspect of let's go off into space and find this way to save the universe and everything, and then none of it works anyways. So what was the point of doing it?
Hmm.
Like, great, you told us about
Honest,
intergalactic slavery, and
yeah,
that's that.
that whole thing just felt like a move to make sure that that those two well, mostly to make sure that Finn wasn't standing in the same spot by the end of the movie.
Yep.
Because like they saw him at the beginning, and then if they had shown him at the end of the movie and he was still like in the same spot, people would have really been outraged, you know. So they
Yeah.
had to do something to make him move. So they just sent him on a random mission.
Yep.
It was I don't know. It was such a
I,
terrible movie. I
horrible.
knew when it started with that joke, I was like, I'm done. I'm out. Ooh.
All right. So 10 minutes, and I'm going to do the raffle giveaway. Um, Speaking of getting into these comics that are going to start introducing more. So we had an announcement for Gore the God Butcher. And Gore is a very interesting character. He's only 7 years into the comics. They started him in one of the later or one of the newer Thor runs. And it's he's going to play this massive role because if he exists in the MCU, somebody else has to exist in the MCU. And that's the King in Black. Because as long as that sword, the all black necro sword, is there, the person who created it is null. Like it's kind of like if this exists, this has to be somewhere out there. What it's just like I said with Miles, it's a matter of when, not a matter of if.
Yeah, I really don't know much about that character, so I don't know. That's something I got to find out about. I like the name though. I mean, is this dude as bad as his name is, or
Null or Gore?
Gore?
So Gore the God Butcher, I haven't read the comic. It's one of those ones that I came into comics about 4 or 5, 6 years ago, maybe. My wife and I, the first comic book we bought was when we went to New York City in 2016. And we basically, what's up, Cray Cray for Comics? Good to see you. What up? Okay, not West up. So basically, from what I can understand in all of the research that I've done without reading any of the source material, is he's this guy who basically came from the no-name planet. He's a faceless, nameless kind of character who really doesn't have much going for him. And then his family dies. His wife, his I think it was his daughter, and then his mother all die right in front of him. So he basically renounces the gods and says, you know what? I'm going to go kill them all because clearly they don't care about me. So that kind of starts this quest, and him and Thor, obviously with Thor being a god, are at odds. And pretty much Gore gets Thor to his knees, is about to kill him, and Vikings in the past end up saving Thor. And then Thor goes to the future, to the present, and then he's like time traveling basically during this storyline from what I can understand. But basically the coolest thing about Gore is that he has this all black necro sword that was created by Null. And I'm not sure if you've been reading King in Black, but
just the first issue, the story issue.
Yeah. So King in Black Null's going to eventually play this big role in the MCU if they keep going down this line. Mm-hmm. And just based on the first issue, just based on the Union tie-in and the Venom 31 issue, I can't wait to see something in the MCU with Venom and Null getting into it. Now, the issue with it is that I believe Null is a Thor property, technically, because even though he was introduced in Venom, the comics, he's a god. So I think he falls under that Thor moniker. Okay. So if Sony doesn't want them to do it, then they could technically go ahead and do Null without Venom, which would be
weird.
Yeah, to say the least, yes.
You know, this does kind of change. I never even thought about this, but this does kind of change things on the cinema front, because before the shutdown and everything, before 2020, you know, movies were doing really good, and they've been the hardest hit industries. So where before Sony had a little more bargaining power to stay away from Marvel and keep more money, now that everybody's kind of in a struggle, there's more leverage to make whatever needs to happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if those contracts fluctuate a little bit more.
I would love to see what ends up happening, because before the shutdown, when there were all those talks of losing Spider-Man, losing just all of these possible properties from Sony, and Sony basically saying, screw you, we're going to go do our own thing, it was all up in the air. And there were talks that Apple was going to buy Sony. There were talks that I believe Amazon was going to buy Sony, or Microsoft, or not Microsoft, but someone was going to buy Sony. And Disney was thinking, let's kick them a few bucks, because if we can help them buy Sony and get Spider-Man back for this much, we're there.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know how you feel about Spider-Man, but I want him back.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I kind of have this like fear of like the monopoly model, you know. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that idea, you know. And so that's the one thing. Like, I think it's really cool when Spider-Man's in the MCU. I think that stuff is all great. The way it all ties together is perfect. It just concerns me to keep giving Disney more and more properties because I don't know, like it I don't know, because it's hard to just like come up with something new that is as popular as these established history, and like they
Yes,
have all the data, you know. Corporations are all data driven now, and they have more data than ever on these stories versus anything new that somebody comes up with. So they know exactly what they're going to make on these properties. They don't know what they're going to make on a new property, and it's hard to say let Disney have it all. Amazon will invent all their own characters, because to get that popularity is insane. You know, how are they
yep,
going to ever compete?
definitely. And I mean, that's my biggest thing is like, if we say tomorrow Sony just says, screw it, you can have him back, we're done with it, we're not going to use this for the millions and billions of dollars that he's worth, Marvel now has all of this to kind of play with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that at this current stage, Marvel's ready to play with all of that. I think that they're purposely playing a long game. They got Fox
Mm-hmm.
back, and as we noticed, they made an announcement about Fantastic Four, but they did
Oh
not
yeah,
make an announcement about X-Men. They're talking about
that's
a
true. Yeah.
Fantastic Four reboot, but there was no mutant talk
Hmm.
yesterday. And I mean, say what you will about Wanda. Obviously, she's technically a mutant, because in the true comic she was, but they couldn't technically make her a mutant. But still, it's interesting to see what they're going to do with that, and why are they waiting so long.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Storm's in Black Panther 2. There's been rumors about that, but what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I think with the X-Men, part of the problem there is you're establishing a universe. I mean, there's a lot that comes with the Fantastic Four as well. Hey,
You
what's
got
up,
some
guys?
support, buddy.
Yeah, right. Woohoo. Um, yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot that comes with Fantastic Four, but the X-Men kind of stand on their own, and
Yeah,
I almost feel like that would be a universe better built through like a series first, like a couple of seasons of something, like one season of something to just kind of like hit the ground running, you know, so we don't have to
for
wade through
sure.
another origin story movie. Like nobody's ready. Nobody wants to watch another origin story of X-Men, you know, like I think a good like 5-part series would just be like incredible. They could really establish the world, and build the world in like a little 5-part series, and then boom, we hit the ground running in the first movie, and they can start dropping them straight into the MCU, and like you don't have to worry about it, you know.
And if they don't do a 5-part miniseries, which would be phenomenal, and I think that's the reason why Disney Plus exists, is to bring out these characters like Moon Knight and Miss Marvel and She-Hulk and test the waters, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
before they do anything more with it. And then, honestly, I think if they don't do that, to introduce a few at a time as supporting characters, like I said, Storm in Black Panther 2, Omega Red in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and all these other like little drops, I think that's just going to be a really great way to introduce these characters as well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Either way works. I mean, they have done no wrong so far introducing anything. So,
Exactly.
you know, there's smarter people than me putting it all together. But yeah, I think it would just be cool to have like a 5-part series, and because again, it feels like a universe you're establishing, like a side universe, you know. And
Yep.
I feel like it needs a world to exist in before it exists there.
Definitely. And while we're on the topic of X-Men, I'm going to do this giveaway. So I put all of these names inside this wonderful random name picker. So they're all right here, all 26 of you guys.
I'm number one. I'm number one.
And let's do it. Let's see. Super Mango Comics is going to be our winner. So Super Mango, thank you for entering the raffle. It was wonderful to have all of you guys enter. It was a great way to give away that book to a good home. So this beautiful 9.8 Omega Red Key is going to be going to Super Mango. Absolutely wonderful. Message me on Instagram and we will figure out shipping and all of that fun stuff.
Cool. Congratulations.
All right. I hope that he's in here. I'm not sure. We got 2 watchers right now, but obviously I can't see who they are, which is one of the tough parts about all of this, but you know, is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a great time to be alive in comics, I have to say, because to get all of this news, DC, Marvel, and even some of the lesser knowns like Image and Valiant. I mean, I don't know that there's a single comic that I've picked up in the last 3 months since that shutdown kind of started to fizzle out that I haven't seen authors really giving it their best.
Yeah.
To say the least. It's been amazing to see these writers really give us amazing content.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think where it starts to really get crazy is some of the stuff we're seeing now that is from like the beginning of the shutdown, back in like March, April, May, as things were like getting kind of crazy. That's a lot of the books we're seeing right now is the stuff they were writing then. And so it's like really interesting knowing the history that's kind of tied into a lot of everything you read, but they've continued to entertain. That's what's incredible. Everything I've been reading has just been so quality.
For sure. So what have you been reading lately? What's been on the top of your pull list?
Oh man. Right now I'm on Origins, Boom Studios.
Okay.
Have you read that one? No?
I have not.
Oh man, the second one came out this week, and I also read Crossover, and to me they both like both of those books, I thought the first one was like interesting and okay, but the second book like really put me over the top on both of those. So I did Crossover and Origins this week.
Okay.
We've been keeping up with Batman for Steve's show on Thursday nights, so that I really like Thor. They have the Donald Blake stuff going on there.
Yes.
That was really cool. I really like these last 2 issues. I did not like the 2 before that though. The Hammer stuff, not interesting.
Hammerfall.
Like
it was very interesting why they did that. It's like, why didn't you just jump to Donald Blake if that was going to be your next big thing? I mean, it looks like they're talking about a whole other Black Winter level, like character reveal. And why did you have these 2 short mini issues in there for what seemed like almost no reason? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I will never look at a scalpel the same. he literally cut the sword out of Lady Siv's hand. Like,
yeah,
that was next level. He was good.
Honestly. And I mean, just issue 1. So, like I said, I haven't been in comics for that long, but my local comic book shop owner, Chet over at Rhinos Comics in Rochester, is absolutely phenomenal. And I think it was probably issue 2 or 3 that I started to get into the current Thor run. And I had seen all of these beautiful Thor covers and just thought to myself, why have I not picked this up yet? So I read Thor 1, thought it was amazing. And he told me, he's like, this is 70s Thor all over again. This is bringing me back to my childhood and really making me want to read more Thor. So I was like, well, if he's reading it, why am I not reading it? Like, I want to know what this is all about. I loved Thor Ragnarok. It was phenomenal. And I was one of the few that actually was okay with Thor 2 and Thor 1 because it led somewhere. But I mean, ever since getting into it, I have not had any complaints except for Hammerfall because it just made no sense.
Yeah.
It was like, why? Donny Cates is a phenomenal writer, and I know that it's probably going somewhere, and I know that there's probably something he's going to do with it eventually. But where is he going to take that? Like, great. Thor found that Mjolnir was too heavy for him. It was getting heavier and heavier, and then everyone was able to pick it up all of a sudden. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt so off the beaten path. I didn't
Yeah.
we started reading with number 1. And so I've been following that series all the way through, and it just came out of left field. It was so random, and the art changed, and it still wasn't bad art, but it was so random how it
Yeah.
changed. It got like real soft and lots of like lighter colors and stuff, and it just really threw me off. And I didn't care for the story. It meant nothing to me. And then I was kind of like, and then that first Donald Blake issue, I was like, okay, this is interesting again. Like, what's going on here? And then that second one it blew me away. I was really impressed with the second Donald Blake issue. I think that's number 10, right?
Yeah. So Prey Part 2, Thor 10 is what we're talking about right now. And I mean, honestly, so I had heard the name Donald Blake in that first Thor movie when they put the name, hello, my name is Donald Blake. And I'm like, that sounds really familiar. I've heard about Donald Blake before. Who the hell is he? And then I came up again and I'm like, he had a cameo in Thor 1. And someone goes, it wasn't a cameo. It was just, there was the name on a name tag. I was like, wow, Marvel really does love to drop these little tiny Easter eggs just for fan service.
Yeah. Well, that was his alter ego. That was how he lived in the human world. So,
Yeah.
I never thought. I mean, I think in the first one he's just in disguise, right? So,
Yep.
like that's kind of how I thought of it. It's just like him on Earth, he is Donald Blake. But then like this one kind of took it to the next level and is like, yeah, he switches places with somebody who's in this other place and stuff, and they share memories and all that. And I'm like, okay, now this is kind of weird, and I like that. Especially
Well,
once you see like the whole neighborhood on fire and everything, like, man.
yeah, with the dragon and all that, like,
Yeah.
I was like, we just went from Thor to like, what the hell?
Yeah. It
We're
was
taking this to
crazy.
Game of Thrones level now, like dragons and dungeons and body swapping and
Mhm.
and so I mean, like I started researching Donald Blake, and the fact that he was created by Odin was a very interesting fact. That Odin created this man, like literally just said, I'm going to make a human being for my son to learn humility and to kind of figure out what it looks like to be not really a lesser being, but not a god, to not
Mhm.
live forever. And now we're seeing that Donald Blake, when Thor wasn't in his body, was in like this trance almost, just completely out in left field doing his own thing. And
Yeah, he was in virtual reality.
yeah, pretty much. And then he decided to kill virtual reality. It's like
Yeah.
he went Wreck-It
It was
Ralph
really
breaks the internet.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah, right. My kids were just watching that earlier.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the Thor book is interesting, and then King in Black is the other Marvel that I've been reading.
Okay.
Well, I guess I just started reading that one, but that's the other Marvel that I'm reading right now. I was reading The Flash from DC, but that got so bad, so fast. But yeah, King in Black was really cool. Again, kind of like crossover, like it gave you everything you were expecting in that first issue. And so now that that's all out of the way, like he gave you all your expectations, so now he can come along and surprise you. So I think that's interesting. So I'm in on both
For
of those.
sure. Yeah, King in Black. So I'm not sure if you read The Union. That was like a tie-in issue.
Mm-mm.
And So it's Union Jack coming back. He was first introduced in the 81 in a Captain America comic. And he's basically part of this United Kingdom superhero group that is 5 superheroes. 4 of them represent each of the different parts of the United Kingdom. And then one represents the whole thing that kind of brings them together. And basically, so they introduced this team as a tie-in, and it was originally supposed to be a tie-in in Empire. But with COVID and everything, Empire got like cut 20 issues short.
Mm.
So it never got released, and then I guess it got revamped for the King in Black. And I put this in the video that I put out yesterday on it. It was very slow. It was very hard to read because it was a very immature read. It was one of those ones where it's like, okay, you're trying to get me to know these characters and you want us to know about them. You want us to know who they are. But at the same time, you're not sure where you're going with it yet, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And the very ending of it was this giant symbiote dragon just coming out of nowhere right before Null covers the earth in the symbiote fluid and crashes and gets killed. And then basically these soldiers that were on the side of the Union get taken over by the symbiotes. And that's where it kind of all started. Yeah, Shan, Empire was cut. I want to say it was 20 issues. There was a very interesting article that I read where it was that they couldn't put them all out. They didn't want to rush it, but at the same time they knew they had to. So it was one of those weird things.
Hmm.
Let me see if I can find how many issues.
What was that? Was Empire? What was that one about? I thought that was a DC run.
So Empire was the Marvel run that was all about the Kree Skrull War.
Oh,
and
okay.
The ending of it, but it wasn't actually the ending. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I actually stopped reading it probably around issue 3 or 4. It never really caught my attention. It was good, but it wasn't great. It was one of those ones that like I feel like they pushed it out and COVID happened and they wanted to get it done and finished because they didn't want another Clone Saga where it lasted for years and years.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was totally hyped for that run because it was phenomenal. My wife she literally told our local comic book shop guy, put everything Empire in my list or in my pull box because the variants in of themselves were phenomenal. And I had actually, when it came out, it started to come out, I think, before Shutdown. And then it continued to come out right after, or it might have started, or it was about to come out right as Shutdown started. One or the other, I can't remember. And I want to say that I have probably 4 or 5 variants of issue number 1 just because they were that good. There was one where like Thor's wielding like a glowing hammer and just about to smash the crap out of this guy. And it looked phenomenal. So I was like, cool, let's get it. And I mean, even the second and third prints were phenomenal. Like I hardly ever say that about a second and third print cover because usually they're just because people want to buy more. But I mean, these were really great books. They were really phenomenal covers. Love the action figure variants. Those were pretty cool too. I definitely love the pop variants that have been coming out too. Those are interesting in of themselves. And I think pops in general are just really cool. I've got a whole wall of them and I want so many more. I wish they weren't $10 a box.
Yeah. They're making a lot off of those.
Oh, for sure. My local comic book shop has a buy 10 get one free. So he has like
Oh.
a loyalty punch card for the Pops Lounge and whatnot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of some of the like animated stuff that they talked about?
You mean like What If?
Yeah, What If is animated, and was there something else? I thought there was another thing they announced that was animated.
I'm not sure, but watching the trailer for What If was just mind blowing.
That was pretty cool.
Seeing Chadwick Boseman take off the Star Lord mask. I Am Groot is also the animated one.
Oh,
That's going to
I
be
am.
some animated shorts. And honestly, the fact that I have a 21-month-old son allows me to watch those without anyone judging me. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. That's also how I get away with watching those old school. What are they? Lightning McQueen, the Mater's Tall Tales. Those are so funny to watch too. I'm not sure if you've ever seen them. I know that you have kids and whatnot, but those are really fun to watch as well. I think Ryan may have froze. Maybe I froze. You good?
You there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I
I
don't know what
wasn't sure. You like froze and I would kept talking. I wasn't sure for what was going on. So Rad Dad reviews, dude, I am so hype. It is going to be absolutely amazing. There's a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special that's coming out in 2 years. I mean, anything Guardians at this point is just phenomenal to watch.
Yeah. What is that? Did they describe it? I didn't hear a good description of what it was other than a holiday special.
So all they said on their Facebook page is the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. James Gunn is back to write and direct.
Yeah.
And it's coming out obviously most likely in November, December of 2022.
You think it's gonna be like a scripted telethon kind of thing or something?
Probably. If it's not that, I'm guessing it's going to be something that's probably like an hour long of just them joking around about the holidays and what it looks like on different planets. And also, who knows what the MCU is even going to look like in the next 2 years, because we've got all of this stuff on Disney Plus dropping.
Mhm.
COVID is still a risk right now. I'm hoping they don't push Black Widow back any further. I'm hoping that if they can't do it properly by the new release date, that they just put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
For that,
Yeah,
that
I
they can
think
move
that's
on.
gonna be the tipping point. I
Yeah.
think if they can't release, I think best case scenario, it's gonna be in theaters. Worst case scenario, it will also be $30
Yep.
for their like early access or whatever, you know.
Rad Dad went Super Saiyan just watching. Dude, so it's actually kind of a funny story. I was upstairs and my wife said we're gonna go downstairs. We're gonna hang out and watch Big Bang Theory or whatever we were watching last night. And I get downstairs and she is geeking out hardcore, and I couldn't hear much, but I could hear like that WandaVision music that was in the first trailer.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You've probably already seen it by now. You watch all of these things without me, anyways. You're the last one, or you're the first one to know about all of this, and I'm always the last one." And I'm like, "What in the hell are you watching right now? I have not seen anything." And she goes, "Wow, it only came out like 40 minutes ago. You haven't seen it in the first 40 minutes?" And so, of course, I screencast, and I'm like, "Okay, where am I going?" And she goes, "Go to the Marvel Studios Facebook page." And we just start geeking out on every single announcement. One of the biggest ones, because I'm a huge fan of what they did with Ant-Man. I never had read an Ant-Man comic. I knew that he existed. I knew that there was stuff going on with him and that he played a major role. But when they said that they're doing Ant-Man Quantumania, I was like, I need more about this. I need to learn more about what that even means. because that means we're going back to the quantum realm, and it's going to be even bigger than it was in any of these previous movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested because like you, man, like I had never even really thought about Ant-Man, and then they announced it and I was like, okay, and then they attached Paul Rudd and I was like, of course I'm gonna watch that. So,
Exactly.
and then it still surprised me as good as I expected it to be at that point.
And see, that's the thing. I think we went, as a fandom, we went into Ant-Man thinking that it could suck, that we were pleasantly surprised that it just didn't. That
Hmm.
Paul
Yeah,
Rudd pulled it
low
off.
expectations.
Exactly. And Paul Rudd pulled it off, and they pretty much made it seem like there was this really awesome heist film. And it's like, okay, the MCU just did a heist film.
Yeah,
Like, what the hell is that going? Like, no one saw that coming.
yeah,
And then they go to Endgame, and it's like, hey, we're gonna pull off a time heist. And it's like, okay, Ant-Man 1 was phenomenal. They did a heist in that one. Ant-Man 2 was pretty good. There was a heist in that one. Endgame's got to be good because they're doing another heist. I mean, and then the fact that you've got Michael Pena narrating as fast as possible in all of these movies is just
yeah,
hilarious to watch.
yeah.
So I mean, you put those characters with that chemistry back in a movie,
Hmm.
and you've got the same director, Peyton Reed, coming
Yeah.
back. How can you go wrong?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was really disappointed to that they parted ways with Edgar Wright because I
Yeah,
love all of his work. But I think Peyton Reed has kind of shown us like he's got the chops.
for sure.
I didn't like the second one quite as much as the first one, but it felt weird because it felt bigger, like they were trying to go a little bit bigger, but still. So I'm hoping now that he's more tied into the whole MCU, maybe we can get like a big final third act with him really playing a major key piece of the whole thing.
For sure. And then it's like, where do you take Ant-Man from here? Is he going to have a fourth movie like Thor? Or is he going to be a character we only ever see again in um, like the main, all those tie-in movies?
Hmm.
It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. And will Goliath come back? Are they going to bring him back for the movie? Um, that's another what if. That's all
I,
up in the air,
yeah, I almost wonder if we don't start to see character movies kind of die off.
for
It
sure.
almost seems like we're going to get like 3 to 4 major events every year, maybe one for each season, one seasonal event every year,
Yeah.
and it'll just be a movie of like a collection of people.
All I
and,
know
and they'll
is
all their character growth in series on Disney Plus.
Disney has the money for it. They don't care if they're
Yeah.
paying these 10 A-list actors in one movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're making the money off of it. But see, that's also what I'm worried about.
Yeah. Well,
Is uh,
yeah, because I mean, the whole thing that's changed the model is being able to watch whatever you want when you want.
yep,
That changes everything. Now there's not limited bandwidth. You can have everything there, and because they own everything there, it doesn't matter. Like
yep,
selling one ticket to Captain or the Falcon and Winter Soldier, selling one ticket to that is the same as selling a ticket to Ant-Man now.
yep,
Like it's all going to the same place. The money doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many
exactly.
viewers there are, they can now support anything through the greater whole.
And I honestly wonder, are we going to see not the death of the current like movie run, or is it going to change completely? How is that all going to look? I mean, it's going to be very interesting to say the least.
Hmm.
What happens from here on out is going to make a huge difference. And I mean, HBO has already said every movie we put out, Warner Brothers, whatever, what have you, anything DC is going straight to the theaters and straight to HBO Max. And it's
Yeah,
like, all right. So when ticket prices drop and we're seeing this amazing Wonder Woman movie. I mean, Wonder Woman, the first one was phenomenal. It honestly, for me, saved the entire DC franchise because I was honestly ready to sign off after everything that had happened in Batman vs Superman.
oh yeah,
Like it was a shit show.
Yeah.
And to see it continue to grow into something so much bigger, and Wonder Woman being this phenomenal movie, even though it was way back in World War I,
Mm-hmm.
it was great to kind of see this all play out on screen. But if we're not going to see that anymore, if things are going to start getting released and you're going to see less and less of these ticket prices and people saying, oh, look, Avengers Endgame is the top rated, the top selling movie, how are we going to sit there and say that a movie is better than another anymore based on views? It's going to be weird.
Well, and they don't give out data like just like Netflix, right?
I don't believe so.
So yeah,
I've
like
never seen anything.
yeah, so like we would never know how many people are actually watching these Disney shows and movies and all this stuff, you know. So
Yeah.
they're in an ecosystem at this point where like money's just moving, you know, like they're putting content out and it's coming right back in, and it doesn't matter. Again, it just means like they can do a series about everything and it doesn't matter if everybody watches it because they're making their money no matter which one you watch, you know. It's all the same ticket.
Yeah, and I mean, is it going to look like YouTube where they can just put content out, have a subscriber service, and then people pay? And I guess what I'm saying the most is that I don't want to see movies turn into this ad-driven TV like we see with cable. I guess that's the best way to put it, is I don't want there to be ads inside my movie. I don't want streaming services to be $50 a month because they're now going to start doing movies. I mean, to go to a movie's $9, $10, $12 right now for
Mm-hmm.
one person. Are we going to see this giant rise in how much streaming services are going to cost, and then they're going to end up killing themselves off? I don't want that to
Yeah, well,
happen.
I mean, they're already. I mean, you still have options on how many services you have and which ones, but
Yep.
they're all putting out so much stuff. They want your attention so much. You're basically subscribed to enough stuff to make a cable bill, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue the quality's much better, and you don't have even at least as many commercials, you know, but you know, it is like it's turning into the cable model all over again.
Yep.
There's like premium channels and there's regular channels, basic
For
cable,
sure.
premium cable, you know, like so.
It will be very interesting to see how it all plays out, and I would love to continue this conversation next week. Hopefully the same time, same place, all of that, and just grow this talk into even more people, because I mean, we didn't even get to talk about Ironheart, Secret Invasion, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Hawkeye, Captain Marvel 2, Shang-Chi, Loki. Like, all of these are just huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know if you saw the Loki trailer, but I mean, he's going back to somewhere he doesn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm telling you, I don't know how anybody is possibly going to watch all of this.
yeah.
Like
And
reviewers, that's about it. That's the only, if you're getting paid to watch it's about the only way you're going to watch it, you know? Like there's so much stuff coming. It's crazy.
for sure. So if you're a subscriber of the channel, I'm going to be talking the TVA very soon. I want to learn more about it, and then I want to tell you guys about what I've learned, because I think that's one of the really cool things about YouTube, is being able to talk about this kind of stuff and then be able to just kind of share that knowledge with people and continue to go on with what we're doing. And whether you're watching this while you're on your drive home or you're watching this live, I don't really care. I hope you're not watching on your drive home, but that's the cool thing about these video podcasts, is you guys can kind of listen along. You don't have to watch us do our thing. And that's kind of why I wanted to continue these live streams, is so that way you guys have some really cool content, some really cool conversation, and you guys can kind of join us on that conversation board. If you ever want to join us live with us, let me know. Just message me on Instagram, and I'm more than welcome to talk comics with you live. I mean, Ryan, we talked about this, a day or two ago, and
Yeah.
I've got you on here just chilling and relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a good time, man. I enjoyed this. This is fun.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you on. I hope to talk very soon. Hopefully again next Friday.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Have a great night.
You too, man.
All right, so that was the Comics Lounge, episode number 2, live stream. So excited that you guys were able to join us. Those of you who were, if you're still here with us, leave me a comment. Love to hear who's still here. And if you're watching this after the fact, that's awesome too. I love that you guys are getting involved in these live streams with us. It is absolutely amazing. We're almost at that 250 subscriber mark, so I really hope that you go subscribe to us. Find that 250 subscriber video, leave a comment, like it, make sure that you hit that notification bell on the subscribe, and then go to our Instagram where there's a secret way to win. That's how you get that third entry that's down here. See right here, that 3 entries per person. So YouTube, Instagram, and then Instagram tells you about a secret way to get a third entry into that giveaway. Again, we're not raffling. It's a free giveaway to you as long as you're in the United States. I'm paying for shipping. You don't have to worry about that. I want to put this book in the hands of someone who's absolutely going to love and enjoy it. So with all of that being said, I hope that you have an absolutely, absolutely wonderful night. And honestly, keep it casual, my friends. Again, pleasure to have all of you. If you're watching this on the replay, it was a pleasure for you to join. And guys, let's continue this. Let's keep going. Cray Cray for Comics is still here. Sorry, Cray Cray. We are signing off for tonight. Again, absolutely wonderful to have Shannon Hoagie, Rad Dad Reviews, Next Guy Ryan Pond, Burke Family 54. Thank you for joining us. Adrian Panda Awesome 316. Loved having you. And just get involved in that chat, guys. We want to continue to have these conversations. We want to continue talking about this and enjoy.